Making headlines this hour, President Dr. Mohammad Muizzu ratifies an amendment to the Maldives Export-Import Act passed by Parliament. President Dr. Mohammad Muizzu officially inaugurates the Maldives Financial Expo 2026, an event organized by the central bank, the Maldives Monetary Authority. Maldives pledges $50,000 as annual contributions to Palestine through the United Nations Relief and Works Agency for Palestinian Refugees in the Near East.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to PSM News in English with me, Hafiz Abdul Sattar. Now the news in detail. President Dr. Mohammad Muizzu ratifies an amendment to the Maldives Export-Import Act passed by Parliament, reducing the import duty on cigarettes to $0.26 per cigarette.
Under the amendment, the specific import duties on cigarettes, BDs, heated tobacco products and other consumable tobacco products designed to be heated rather than burned has been set out as $0.26 per unit. In addition, an ad valorem duty of 30% will apply to these products. The amendment also exempts nicotine replacement products specifically intended to help people quit tobacco use, such as nicotine chewing gum, nicotine patches, and similar products from import duty. Following the President's ratification and publication in the Government Gazette, the amendment has now come into force. As a result of the changes, the government expects a reduction in the import duty revenue previously projected in the national budget. The amendment further requires the relevant rules and procedures to be revised and published within 30 days of the law coming into effect. In November 2024, the government significantly increased cigarette import duty from $0.21 to $0.52 per cigarette as part of broader changes to tobacco taxation. The government has stated that the latest reduction in cigarette duty was made following recommendations by the World Health Organization (WHO). In recent years, the government has introduced a number of measures aimed at strengthening tobacco control and protecting public health. These include introducing a generational smoking ban, banning the import and sale of vaping products, and implementing other tobacco control policies over the past 2 years. In addition, the government officially launched its National Tobacco Control Campaign on 27th of June, following its announcement on 31st of May. The program seeks to raise public awareness, expand smoking cessation services, strengthen enforcement of tobacco-related laws and regulation, and promote coordinated efforts between the public, government institutions, and civil society organizations to reduce the harms caused by tobacco use and protect public health.
President Dr. Mohammad Muizzu officially inaugurates the Maldives Financial Expo 2026, an event organized by the Central Bank, the Maldives Monetary Authority.
The central bank noted that the event serves as a valuable opportunity for attendees to explore opportunities within the financial sector, acquire information regarding newly introduced services, and secure the practical guidance necessary for making sound financial decisions. Following the inauguration, President Muizzu toured the exposition stalls, accompanied by Hassan Zarir, the Minister of Finance and Public Enterprises, and Ahmad Munawwar, the Governor of the Maldives Monetary Authority. Held at Hurumale Central Park from the 2nd July to 4th of July, the exposition offers free daily admission between 3 p.m. and 10 p.m. The central bank explained, visitors can access guidance on opening savings accounts, applying for loans, securing insurance, and mapping long-term financial plans, offering the distinct advantage of evaluating numerous financial products under a single roof. The event eliminates the need to visit disparate institutions. The central bank officials asserted the gathering features participations from commercial banks, regulatory bodies, and government agencies functioning as a vital platform for entrepreneurs. The central bank announced that business owners can consult directly with lenders. The itinerary includes activities for families and panel discussion for industry experts to deliberate on the future trajectory of the Maldivian financial sector.
Minister of Finance and Public Enterprises Hassan Zarir stresses that strong cooperation between government institutions is essential for economic resilience.
The finance minister made the remarks while speaking at a ceremony held to launch the Maldives Monetary Authority MMA's Financial Sector Awards. Speaking at the ceremony, the minister said MMA, the finance ministry, and other institutions must continue working closely to implement fiscal and monetary policies that bring about financial stability and sustainable growth without placing excessive burden on the public. The minister also called for structural changes to address economic challenges, strengthen the financial system, and improve economic resilience. He noted that such changes must be brought about even if difficult decisions are required for the nation's interest and the benefit of future generations. The minister pointed to the recent successful repayment of sovereign sukuk as evidence of strong financial management and effective coordination between institutions. He said, this in turn has improved investor confidence in the Maldives' fiscal indicators. He said, the repayment has led to a steady decline in debt to GDP levels and improved sovereign credit rating, and investor and international financial confidence is increasing. Noting the central bank's cooperation with the government, the minister credited MMA for its key roles in achieving financial stability and supporting government efforts. He praised the MMA for its long-term contribution to financial system development over the past 45 years and said it has gained public trust.
The Maldives Monetary Authority announces a special awards titled The Distinguished Contribution to the Financial Sector have been bestowed upon the individuals and institutions that played a leading role in expanding the Maldivian financial system.
These honors, presented at the Central Bank's 45th anniversary celebration, recognize long-term service towards developing a robust financial landscape. The accolades comprised a special award for revolutionary change and an appreciation category for central bank leadership. Recipients of the special award include the State Bank of India for introducing pivotal banking services and former President Maumoon Abdul Gayoom for establishing the central bank in 1981. The late Ismail Fathi earned a posthumous honor for founding the Bank of Maldives, while Ilyas Ibrahim and Ibrahim Shafiq were commended for establishing Allied Insurance. Dr. Azima Adam received a special award for transitioning the national currency to polymer notes through the Ran Diha Fahe series. The appreciation category honored governors and deputy governors, President Gayoom, Muhammad Jalil, Qasim Ibrahim, Abdullah Jihad, Dr. Fazil Najib, Dr. Azima Adam, Ahmad Nasir, and Ali Hashim. The late Ismail Fathi and Arif Hilmi were also recognized for their service as deputy governors. Over 45 years, these individuals have shaped a powerful institution that safeguards the financial system representatives maintained. The central bank observed, under their guidance, the Maldives achieved significant advancements in commercial banking, payment systems, and monetary policy. These leaders established a modern financial infrastructure.
Minister of Education, Higher Education and Skills Development Ismail Shafiu announces that Key Stage 1 students in the Maldives will sit an international assessment in November 2026.
The assessment will allow their performance to be compared with children of the same age in other countries. Speaking at a ceremony held to mark the release of the Key Stage 3 National Assessment of Learning Outcomes report, the minister said the government believes in shaping the country's education system based on evidence. He said, although National Assessment of Learning Outcomes for Key Stage 1 and 2 were conducted, adequate measures were not taken based on the results. The minister said the government is now using previous assessment data to guide education policy and curriculum reforms. As outlined in President Dr. Mohammad Muiz's presidential address this year, the ministry is revising thematic textbooks and teaching methods to benefit both students and teachers. He said, the national assessment prepared by the Quality Assurance Department is significant in this process. The minister further said in the latest national assessment for Key Stage 3 covered 5 subjects including Islam and Divehi. Students performed relatively better in Islam and Divehi, although the minister said there is still room for improvement. Mathematics remains a concern, with previous national assessment showing weak performance in mathematics. According to the minister, this result has prompted teacher training and curriculum change for mathematics for Key Stage 1. The ministry is working on making mathematics textbooks more engaging and increasing the amount of classroom time allocated to mathematics. The minister said the key Stage 1 assessment schedule for November will measure students' performance in mathematics, science, and English against international benchmarks. He emphasized that the desired change can only be achieved if relevant data is available. The minister also revealed that the ministry has been monitoring student attendance through a new system to better track attendance rates since last month.
The Maldives pledges $50,000 as annual contribution to Palestine through the United Nations Relief and Works Agency for Palestinian Refugees in the Near East, UNRWA.
The Maldives announced this pledge in a statement delivered by Permanent Representative of the Maldives to the United Nations, Dr. Ali Nasir Mohammed, at this year's UNRWA Pledging Conference held on 1 July 2026 at the UN headquarters. In his statement, Nasir stated that supporting UNRWA is more than a budgetary decision and is rather an investment in preserving a people's dignity and protecting the international rule-based order. He further reflected on the challenges facing the operation of UNRWA and the false accusation directed at UNRWA, and called on the international community to provide sustained funding to ensure UNRWA can fulfill its important mandate. He reiterated Maldives' solidarity with the Palestinian people. The Maldives also pledged $50,000 to UNRWA in 2024, up from $5,000 in the past.
The Minister of Arts, Culture and Heritage, Hina Walid, says the Maldives National Museum houses more than 7,000 artifacts, including items dating back more than 1,500 years, although only a small proportion of the collection is currently on display. The minister made the remarks while responding to a question from a parliamentarian. Heritage Minister Hina said around 600 artifacts are currently on display at the National Museum, including historical items that are more than 1,500 years old. She said the museum faces challenges in standardizing, cataloging, measuring, and preserving its extensive collection. The minister mentioned that the government is working with the Chinese government to renovate and further develop the National Museum in order to improve the preservation and management of its artifacts. Furthermore, the minister stated that the museum has not undergone any major renovation to date and is now in urgent need of extensive repairs and digitization. She also stated work is underway to establish an interactive immersive museum as a branch of the National Museum. Responding to a separate question regarding the weathered condition of the minaret of the Maleh Friday Mosque, Minister Hina said the structure is one of the Maldives' most significant historical landmarks and is maintained in accordance with internationally recognized conservation standards. She said preserving the minaret presents challenges, particularly in sourcing high-quality lime for restoration work and because weather conditions can affect the drying of lime plaster during maintenance. According to the minister, whenever signs of deterioration or staining appear, the National Center for Cultural Heritage carries out the necessary conservation and repair work. Minister Hina added that in line with President Dr. Mohamed Muizzu's policy of diversifying the economy and tourism sector, the ministry is undertaking extensive efforts to develop heritage tourism in the Maldives. The Bank of Maldives BML announces the volume of foreign currency transactions permitted on e-commerce platforms has been increased. The expansion of these caps, previously a source of widespread public concern, aligns with a newly introduced program allowing the public to invest US dollars directly with the financial institution, an initiative that commenced on 23rd June. The bank moved in May to restrict card-based transactions on commonly used e-commerce sites, limiting shoppers to a maximum of 30 monthly transactions across 6 distinct platforms. Acknowledging the necessity of securing US dollar inflows to sustain foreign currency disbursements, the institution structured the public investment initiative into gold, silver and bronze tiers. Upon investment, the equivalent value in Maldivian rupiah is immediately credited to the investor's account, with accrued profits deposited into their local currency account by the following day. Bank officials explained structured as pooled funds, the initiative offers participants the opportunity to realize profits of up to 25%. The prior restrictions generated significant consumer complaints. Mohammad Saeed, the spokesperson and head of brand and marketing strategy for the Bank of Maldives, acknowledged during an appearance on the PSM news program Rajamiyadu. India and Japan signs pacts to boost their cooperation in artificial intelligence, metals, energy, and prepared a joint roadmap for economic security, Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi said after talks with his Japanese counterpart, Sanae Takaichi.
Takaichi is on a 3-day visit to New Delhi as the two Asian partners hold their 16th annual summit. According to Indian government data, bilateral trade between the two countries reached $27.5 billion in fiscal year 2025-26, while Japanese investment in India was $3.2 billion between April and December 2025. Modi said the two countries, also members of the Quad grouping, signed an agreement on their first co-development project in the defense sector. Japan is among India's largest investors, backing major infrastructure projects, including a high-speed rail corridor between the cities of Mumbai and Ahmedabad. Japanese firms have also increased investments in Indian companies, including a recent $1.6 billion deal for a 20% stake in Yes Bank.
Russia says it would keep increasing pressure on Ukraine following a massive overnight strike on Kiev that killed at least 17 people and wounded scores.
Ukraine said Russia launched 74 missiles and 496 drones in the attack, which destroyed a number of residential buildings. Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov said it had been aimed exclusively at military or quasi-military targets. Peskov said President Vladimir Putin had been briefed by his top military commander Valery Gerasimov on the results of what he called a massive retaliatory strike against Kiev and other locations. In the fifth year of the war, Russia has stepped up its missile and drone attacks, especially on Kyiv, as Ukraine has intensified its own drone strikes on Russia's energy sector, inflicting heavy damage that has led to widespread fuel shortages. Asked about a statement by European Union Foreign Policy Chief Kaja Kallas that the EU would propose yet more sanctions to step up pressure on Russia, Peskov said Russia will continue to intensify pressure on the Kyiv regime in order to achieve the goals it has set. Peskov said a discussion was taking place in Russia over how to protect its security in response to what Moscow sees as steps by the EU to militarize the continent and increase tensions. Some Russian hardliners, angered by Ukraine's drone strikes and by what they see as a failed US promise to broker an end to the war on favorable terms, have urged Putin in recent weeks to abandon diplomacy and escalate.
Iran's national football team arrives in Tehran on Saturday following its campaign in the 2026 FIFA World Cup, concluding the tournament with 3 draws and existing in the group stage.
Despite the early elimination, fans and officials gathered to welcome the team, expressing satisfaction with their performance under manager Amir Galanoy. Political tensions between Tehran and Washington forced Iran to abandon plans to establish its World Cup base in Tucson, Arizona, and relocate to Tijuana shortly before the tournament. The Iranian team were also only allowed to enter the US a day before their games. The US authorities later eased some restrictions, permitting Iran to travel 2 days before their final group game in Seattle, although the team was still required to return to its Mexican base afterwards.
A match-worn shirt from Pele's breakthrough performance at the 1958 FIFA World Cup final heads to auction at Sotheby's, where bidding has already reached $1 million. The soccer auction closes on July 16th.
The blue Brazil number 10 shirt was worn by Pelé on June 29, 1958 at Rasunda Stadium in Stockholm, where Brazil defeated host nation Sweden 5-2 to win its first World Cup title.
This is Pelé's 1958 World Cup final shirt. It was the shirt he wore when he really announced himself to the entire world. It was the first globally broadcast World Cup final. He was 17 years old. He scored 2 goals in this match, beating Sweden and bringing Brazil their very first World Cup title. He went on to win 3 more World Cups. He became the greatest soccer player ever. And as we know, Brazil has quite the dynasty when it comes to global football. So they are considered to be, the greatest powerhouse of soccer anywhere.
Sotheby's Sports Week also includes Jalen Brunson's away Association Edition jersey worn on June 3, 2026 during Game 1 of the NBA Finals when the New York Knicks played the San Antonio Spurs. The basketball auction closes July 8th. Brunson finished that game with 30 points, 3 rebounds and 2 assists, including 13 points in the fourth quarter, helping turn a double-digit deficit into a 105-95 Knicks victory.
And that's all we have for now. Thank you for watching. Wish you all a very pleasant time ahead.